All right, CJ, we're going to take a look at your paper next. MLA format first. Up here you have, it's the right format but the wrong font. Make sure it's the same font as the rest of your paper. Everything here looks good. Very creative title there, CJ. You must have worked very long and hard on that. You might want to maybe make that better for the next one. So throughout all of history, comma, people have, from around the globe, have accused others of preposterous things. Now, I get where you're going with this, but I think you can probably be a little bit more specific as far as the accusations. And now you get into specific examples, the McCarthy trial, saying which trial, that's fine, but not in the right state of mind. I think that's the wrong tone you want to take. I think you can be even more to the point and maybe more opinionated in that. So use your writer's voice for that. You are missing a sentence in between because you don't talk anything about tone words yet. You need to introduce the poem and introduce the tone that's set up by Sexton's poem. So you're missing that sentence right here. Then do you get to your thesis statement, which is about how emotionally and physically exhausted it is when one is wrongly accused of something. This sounds an awful lot like plot so far, and I don't want to get down into your body paragraphs and that's all you can talk about is plot. So I'm going to be looking at your expanding on this because right now I think it still needs some work. I don't think you're quite there yet with this. So hopefully it looks better underneath. And just as I feared, as we look at your first body paragraph, we're not making real strong connections here. So you start off with metaphors, which if you go back, this should be in the same order. So diction, detail, metaphors, you should start with diction then as your first paragraph, which you don't. So you use the metaphor of the witch, which you don't even actually probably need this last part because the possessed witch is enough to go from. Assuming the reader will make the connection, do not ever put that. We know that's the connection. You have to be the expert on this. As a strong link to the witches from the Salem witch trial, but it has to be deeper than this. It's used to indicate she was wrongly accused. Okay, you got that. In fact, you say it right here, but that's not analysis. That's just plot. She talks about her physical suffering, which you use as an example. Your flames still bite my thigh, which is a really good personification, but you don't say that. That's another, instead of metaphor, you probably want to go figurative language as what you're looking at in here, because you can have a metaphor, then you can have a personification down here, which is a form of figurative language. Then you go into the idea of the specific torture. She chooses to use her physical exhaustion. Again, that's plot related. It's not analysis related. So you create this sense of helplessness because the memories of being tortured are still embedded in her mind. Now we're kind of getting into that. Because of them being embedded in her mind, where can we go from there? Because then you go on to talk about she's still emotionally scarred from it. How do you know that? Like, what makes you think that? You haven't used any details from the story to back that up. And that's where we need to get. Once you have a strong thesis statement, you're going to say, look, she uses a metaphor. Here's the metaphor. Here's how it relates back to this thesis statement. And again, in your head, you're probably going, well, I did. She's wrongly accused. Look, she was wrongly accused. That's the way it works. Sorry, I got to just flip-flop something. So, you're saying like, oh, no, that I did do that. Yes, you're going back to your thesis, but your thesis isn't analysis yet. We're still on to plot. So we really need to work better on getting away from plot and getting into more analysis. You're also missing a transitional statement up here, so that we want a transitional statement that's going to move into the next paragraph. Okay, diction. Remember, diction is connotative meaning, so it's the emotional meaning placed behind words. This, before we even get into that, this is nearly word for word your last topic sentence. Sexton's use of diction helped demonstrate the suffering she endured. The use of metaphors illustrates the physical suffering of the speaker. I mean, it's a really close topic sentence. You got to be digging deeper than that. To enhance the idea of her emotional suffering, comma, Sexton describes herself as a lonely thing who is out of mind. She talks of a hitch that has taken place. How are you diving deep and talking about the emotional meaning behind these words? I don't see any of that quite yet. And what I would continue on with is she's not a woman quite. how much of an outcast she was, to the fact that she is not like a woman at all. And this is an interesting point that I think you could really dive deep into, this whole section right here. What does that really mean to the overall effect? And I hate to break this to you, CJ, with this poem, you're going to have to go get a little feminist on me and really explain that concept of feminism and what happens when women are unjustly accused, when they are literally or figuratively burned for essentially being just who they are. You're going to have to kind of dive deep into your feminism background as much as you can and figure this out. Again, you just bring up the idea that she has went through a lot, both physically and mentally, but that's just surface level stuff. We haven't dug deep yet. All right, so when we get to detail, remember detail is factual information. So we want to focus on the facts of this particular piece. This feels a lot more like imagery. But I would, instead of standing on your own, you want to use a colon maybe to set it up, but this isn't much of embedding either. So you want to maybe try to relate that or mix those two sentences together. She's an outcast. You do not have to write this. We get the idea of being 12-fingered. You don't have to write that last part there. This is the part, I'm not exactly sure if you've really grasped this concept or this part of the thing, because I don't know if it's something that detail is going to be important for. But the idea that she, getting to her witch lifestyle that she has all these, she has a warm cave in the woods where she has these goods. But I don't know if that really shows her goodness because she did this. I'm not really sure that's what Anne Sexton was going for. Fix suppers for the worms and the elves. She would do it for the most unfortunate of people. I think that's more of an indicative of the kind of counterculture lifestyle that she's leading. So maybe dive into that a little bit. Again, we get into it's emotionally exhausting, can be unhealthy when put in a situation like this, but it's not analysis. That's just surface level stuff. Again, we need to have your thesis underlined, so make sure you underline your thesis. Make sure, again, that your main points are in the same order as you present them in the body paragraphs. Appearing to be the speaker. If you don't know, don't assume that the writer is the speaker. That's kind of poetry 101 there, so just don't assume that. Yes, doing this, make sure you go through and have solid restatements of your main points. You'll need that in here, so like 3 sentences, 1 for each main point at least. So she hopes to do the same, to feel they are not alone, to feel there is hope, and to preserve their dignity. That sentence might work better in the introduction, I guess. But I don't think it's a good ending sentence for all of this. No works cited page at all either, so that's going to count against you too. So CJ, I think we got quite a bit of stuff to think about, and when you say final draft, no works cited page, no title, I don't really feel like this is much of a final draft, so definitely want to put a little bit more effort in next time.